Last week's geometric episode on Keralites migrating abroad en masse, leaving 1 million plus vacant houses in the state, got me a response from around the country. Many of them pointing out that this was no Kerala specific phenomenon. They said the same sort of out-migration was happening from Andhra Pradesh to Punjab to Gujarat and Mumbai to Chennai. That's incredible because it doesn't align with the highly promising and positive numbers and forecasts about India that we read and hear. Our finance minister says India is still the fastest growing economy and it will continue to do so. And during her budget speech last week, she had reminded us that we had just entered the Amrit Kal. Every credible voice in the world optimistic about India's growth, said the Prime Minister this week. And yet ever more Indians, hundreds of thousands of them each year, are keen to chase their dreams outside of India. Why this strange quit India? An old joke among some NRI parents is that when their children misbehave abroad, they threaten them saying they'll be sent to India. Something of that sort of desperation to avoid India seems to be playing out in Arkansas state in the US over the past 3 weeks. Police in Conway, Arkansas have been on the search for the missing 14-year-old Indian schoolgirl Tanvi Marupalli, and the speculation is that she was worried that her father might lose his tech job and that she would have to return to India. Is moving to India such a dreaded thing for an Indian? The sort of stuff that nightmares are made of? Pray why? The constant narrative we hear is that we are at such a point in time that the whole world is envious of our growth. Our forex reserves of about $570 billion is the fourth largest in the world. A global economic recession is looming, but our economy is growing. Our neighbors Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Nepal are facing economic crises of varying intensities. But we are in economically calm waters. Our other neighbor Pakistan is virtually unraveling. We have political stability, we have a robust foreign policy, we can buy crude using rupees, and what more, we have the G20 presidency. We are a $3 trillion economy now, will be a $5 trillion economy by 2025, a $10 trillion economy by 2030, and by 2047 we will be a $25 trillion economy. Why even Uttar Pradesh is planning to be a $1 trillion economy in the next few years. But none of this seems convincing for India's students, youth or professionals to stay in India. Last week, Parliament heard the number of Indians renouncing Indian citizenship each year over the past decade. From 122,819 in 2011 to 141,603 in 2016 to 225,620 last year. Take another look at the chart and you see that the COVID year of 2020 was what arrested the renouncing of Indian citizenship. So many Indians chasing their dreams outside of India shouldn't surprise us, given our penchant to lionize those who achieve abroad. So we're familiar with a Microsoft Satya Nadella or Google Sundar Pichai or an Adobe's Shantanu Narayan or a Deloitte's Puneet Ranjan, but not so familiar with the bosses of a TCS, a Wipro or the ISRO. A bigger concern is the increasing number of Indian students leaving the country every year. Last week, the Parliament was informed that in 2022, 750,365 students left India for higher studies, a 68% rise from the 445,553 students who left in 2021. This week, the Economic Times brought out the sheer obsession of young Indians to live their dream lives abroad. The ET report reads, a senior corporate executive who spent 20 million rupees plus on his son's non-STEM international relations undergraduate degree at a Tier 3 college in the US was left disheartened when the latter was unable to land a job after graduating. He has now returned to India and joined a company here where he intends to get some work experience before trying his luck in Canada next. So if not in the US, in Canada, not in India. That is how many young Indians see their future. So what is that magnet that attracts India's youth west or to the Middle East or to Singapore, Australia and New Zealand? Or rather, what are the turnoffs in their homeland? Different surveys show different reasons. Lack of jobs, poor higher education quality, perceived good life abroad, corrupt and inefficient government officials, filthy towns and cities, divisive politics, moral policing, peer influence to migrate, socio-communal issues, significantly higher earnings abroad. Tackling that long list will be a tall order for our country. Telling our youth that we'll be a $25 trillion economy by the time they are 60 years old will not wash. Until such time, they'll keep quitting India. To be sure, 1 million or so students, youth and professionals migrating abroad each year hardly makes a dent to a nation of 1.4 billion plus people. That's like less than 1 in 1,000 leaving the country every year. But what is of concern is that some of the cream of our people are leaving the country, and we are unable to place a finger on why so many good people want to quit India. If indeed reports are true that the missing Indian teenage girl in the US is desperately trying to avoid coming back to India, the Arkansas police searching for her must be wondering why she doesn't want to return to the country with the fastest growing economy. This episode of Geometric View salutes members of India's Operation Dost, who are helping out with relief and rescue operations in earthquake-hit Turkey and Syria. Within hours of the earthquake, the Indian assistance teams had taken off from the Hindon airport in Ghaziabad with relief materials. One of the heartwarming pictures is that of a Turkish woman planting a kiss on the cheek of a female Indian Army personnel, which attracted the comment, "Respect and gratitude to the Indian Army and their selfless service." Hopefully, our westbound youth are noticing India's soft power playing out on the global stage this week.